there's our shuffle control. Oh yes. Problem. There's a look. There's a problem. There's a problem. Pack it in. There's a problem. There's a problem. So I'm actually enjoying using this drum machine, but there's a couple of bugs. I don't know whether it's a bug, but it's not written in the manual. Basically, this shuffle parameter is not stored with the kit or the pattern. So where the hell is it stored? It's definitely stored, because if I switch... Right, let's talk about the problems with this machine. This is the LXR-02 digital drum synth from Erica Simps and Sonic Potions. It's great, but I pressed on this and this fell off, so I'm going to glue that back on. That's not a problem. This knob here is the one that does your morph function here. This is the one where you can change the kits between two different kits playing. Let's demo that. Lovely. Going to be jamming this later. Problem is, to get into that mode, you press this performance button, and you can also get to your next toggle of the same button gets to your shuffle. Lovely jubbly. Next shuffle goes back to your morph. That's fine. The original pointer meter pots they use are gripless. They don't have any grip, so I put on my own control. That's fixed. The main encoder knob, similarly, it's like a sharp pointed thing. It hurts your fingers. I've changed that. Now, once you've used morph or the shuffle function to get in, what I don't understand is, seeing as you've got, when you do hit performance, you're on morph, you hit performance and you're on shuffle, why not just have morph next to it on the second knob? So we've got shuffle and morph together on one page, because those are the two most used I'm going to use in a live performance. Doesn't make sense, there's 3 spare slots for parameters there. So that's a gripe. Other than the knob, you can't actually get grip enough to turn it while you're using it. But look, the main problem on this machine is that you cannot get back into pattern mode to switch patterns while you're using those controls. And the reason for that is you have to press shift and then pattern 16 over here, the pattern button, which I've marked with X, and you need a gorilla sized hand. I mean, I can't reach it, and I've got size 11 shoes, so unless you're like He-Man or something, you're not going to do that without having 2 hands on it, which means sacrificing some of your performance, because I would use one hand up here at the same time. Don't want to do that, do we? Now we can modify this unit, drilling a couple of holes in the panel. We can wire up from shift button to pattern for just a momentary switch to be mounted on the panel, and the same for reload as well, because reload's the same deal. However, I can sort of get to reload. It's really a bitch, because look, I'm like Spider-Manning this. So really bad idea. The reason it's a bad idea is because the most used buttons, which would be reload and pattern switch, moreover, why put the bloody thing on button number 16 when they could have put it on button number 1, 2, 3 or 4, because then neither of any of these 4 buttons don't have a secondary option. They don't have a secondary option. There's no like shift function for those. There's only a shift function for these. So wouldn't it have made more sense to put the pattern button, which is on 16, on number 1, and reload on number 2, and then you could have had this one and this one spare, maybe shift that one, get into Morph swing panel, and then there's still one spare. But at the end of the day, I'll demonstrate. With one hand, I can press Shift Pattern and get into pattern mode, Shift Reload, Shift get into Morph and Shuffle controls on the screen like I earlier described. Why didn't they do that? Beats me. It's probably because they wanted it to say drum 1, 2, and 3, but at the end of the day, even if they just silently assigned pattern shift to this button, at least it makes use of it, and then you can do it one-handed. Bosh, bosh, bosh. At the minute you need two hands. So I'm going to be drilling some holes in the panel and wiring up reload and pattern to my own modification there for the buttons. Frustrating because you're going to have to open it up and drill holes in a brand new drum machine. Shuffle is I don't really get how this is. So let's get it into pattern mode. It's in pattern mode. I'm going to put it on this pattern here, press play, go into this button here, and you can see the shuffle is turned down. So basically there's no shuffle there, right? So I'm going to go to a different pattern here, go onto that pattern there, and then I'm going to do the same thing, press on this one, and you can see the shuffle is on 32. So where is it saved? Where is it saved? It's not saved in pattern, it's not saved in song because we're not even in song mode, and it's not saved in the kits either. So either that's a bug, or I mean it's not printed in the manual. Right, so that's basically, I've stated that now, let's not go over that again, but at the end of the day that's stupid, because now knowing that to get into shuffle mode I have to come out of pattern mode, it's completely useless. So I've plugged in an external shuffle box which works perfectly as long as your shuffle on the unit is set to 0 to begin with, otherwise you've got two shuffles hitting the same shuffle. So let's do that. Here's one with no shuffle, and then I can use my external shuffle. Works perfectly, it's fine. So I've overcome the problem of going into shuffle mode. Now I just need to get into morph mode to do the morph while changing patterns. So there's a couple of options to do that. Or is there? You would have thought on a unit like this, where literally in the manual, if we look in the manual, here's the manual, here's the CC list for controller change, if anyone knows what I'm talking about still. So I can type in CC, and then basically we've got a massive list of different parameters somewhere in this manual. Let's find it. Here it is. Pages and pages. 200 parameters mapped on this unit for just about every single control. Hundreds of them. They filled up the entire MIDI CC and then went into NRPN as well. But what you'll be surprised to find out is none of those are for the morph parameter or the shuffle parameter. So I can't have an external MIDI CC knob, for instance, to control those just here. I could just have a little box here with a knob on it to do morph and shuffle, which are the ones that I want to use in a live performance. So there's no way of accessing morph without actually coming out of the pattern mode. That's why it's very imperative to me to have a single button to get back into pattern select mode rather than doing this two-fingered click thing. Pattern select, done. So really, when they designed this in this format, this would have been better. Shift 1 to 4 instead of shift to 16. But really, they should have just put dedicated buttons for pattern selection, be it a knob control or any other knob. And in fact, when you're in pattern selection mode, why doesn't the encoder or any of the other encoders control pattern selection? You have to do it from the buttons. Again, doesn't make sense to me. Why not I can choose them using this. I could get a little bit funky as well, and possibly these ones switch at the end of the bar. This one could have switched on the 16th note to remix the patterns on a 16th note, or possibly this would have been 8th note switching, 16th note switching, you know, or just some other way of switching the patterns in a creative fashion. Can't do that. You can only just switch them. Changes at the end of the bar, changes at the end of the bar. That's it. So I'd have liked to have seen that. The 16th, you know, halfway through the pattern, I switch to another pattern and hear the remainder of the next pattern, rather than waiting for the end of the bar. Makes sense. So there's that. But basically, yeah, we can overcome getting into the modes by putting the buttons. But really we still have to dive in and out to change morph. So there's no actual way to map morph or shuffle to either a control on the unit or an external control. So it means basically we cannot switch pattern and do morph unless we send program change numbers in to change the patterns, which I didn't really want to do. But I think this is going to be livable once I've put the reload button, pattern select button. That's doable. I can go like that, I can go like that into morph. I can do my morph setting, and my external swing is here on this box here. So let's try and keep this video a little bit shorter. That's the end of it.